Name is menstrual cycle, about which we'll learn about using a graph and a working model. Menstrual cycle begins with the menstrual bleeding. Once the bleeding stops, the uterine lining becomes thicker and begins to prepare for the possibility of pregnancy. After releasing the egg at 14th day, it will get fertilized at the ampular isthmic junction, where it rests for another 30 hours. The fallopian tube pushes the egg into the uterus. Once the sperm enters the uterus, due to uterine contractions, it gets propelled towards the egg where fertilization occurs. Once fertilization occurs, the surrounding egg cells of the egg release a chemical that prevents further sperm penetration into the egg. Now the sperm is attached to the egg, releases chromosomes from its nucleus and combines with egg nucleus. It is the blueprint of a whole new unique baby. If the egg is not fertilized, the egg breaks down and the hormonal changes signal the uterus to shed its lining, bringing it back to the day 1 of the menstrual cycle. Now we'll learn about menstrual cycle using a graph. The first 14 days is called as follicular phase, and the next 14 days is called as the luteal phase. Now it is called as follicular phase as follicle grows from here to the day 14th, in which it is released, which is called as ovulation. And from 14th to day 28, if the ova is not fertilized, it will regress and form corpus luteum, which will prepare to shed, and it results in menstruation. Now we'll learn about follicular phase. The menstrual cycle begins with menstrual bleeding. The follicular phase begins with the low bubbles of estrogen and progesterone. As a result, the top layer, which has thicker in lining, sheds and menstrual bleeding occurs. In this graph, estrogen is represented by this red line, and FSH is represented by this pink line, and luteinizing hormone is represented by black line, and progesterone is represented by dotted black line. During follicular phase, the menstrual cycle begins with menstrual bleeding. The follicular phase begins with bubbles of estrogen being low, due to which the thicker lining of uterus shuts down, results in bleeding. Around this time, the pituitary gland releases follicle stimulating hormone, which causes the release of 5 to 20 eggs, out of which only one egg matures and become the egg to be released on day 14th. The other follicles will disintegrate with time. On day 14th, the ovulation occurs. It begins with increase in follicle stimulating hormone. The surge of this allows one of the dominant eggs to release, which heads its journey towards fallopian tube to the uterus. Ovulation occurs between 16 to 32 hours after the surge, around day 14 of the menstrual cycle. Luteal phase. At this phase, the levels of the luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone decreases. This is the follicle stimulating hormone, and this is the luteinizing hormone, which whose levels decrease during luteal phase. The ruptured follicles closes after releasing the egg, and its form corpus luteum, which produces estrogen and progesterone, which causes the lining of uterus to thicken even more. If the egg is fertilized, progesterone supports pregnancy. If the egg is not fertilized, the corpus luteum will break down between 9 to 11 days after ovulation. These results in production of estrogen and progesterone levels, bringing us back to the first stage of menstruation, again leading to bleeding if no pregnancy has occurred. Thank you. Now let us see the working model of menstrual cycle. On day 14, when egg is released from the ovary, it travels across the fallopian tube and waits at the ampular isthmic junction for its fertilization. And if it's not fertilized, it will move slowly towards the uterus and remain in the uterus. Once it is not fertilized by sperm after 30 hours, the egg will remain disintegrated. Then the uterus begins to prepare itself for menstruation. So on day 1, menstruation begins, result in the shedding of uterine lining.